right. Hello, hello. We're going to get started in just a minute. Give just a minute for folks to join us and to jump on. And then we're going to get started. All right. So thank you for being here. If you're watching the replay, thank you for watching the replay. If you're watching on Instagram, thank you for watching on Instagram. So I am so glad that you are here. We have a very full 30 minutes planned. And I'm super excited to spend the next half hour. So we might go a little bit over, but talking about how to leverage your comfort zone as an introvert so that you can get out and create and build the relationships that you are craving. So this is the first part in a 3-part series that's called Confidently Cultivating Connections as an Introvert. And I'm starting here talking about leveraging your comfort zone, staying in your comfort zone, because I don't believe that you have to constantly push yourself outside of your comfort zone to grow and evolve. So I'm going to talk about why that is in just a little bit, but it's super important to start here because when you understand that you can actually leverage your comfort zone as an introvert, it makes the process of getting out and meeting new people much more, it brings it much more within reach. It's not quite as scary when you learn how to do this. So if you're here, let me know, drop a comment, let me know that you're here. But otherwise, let's dive in. So why are we here? Well, let's face it, creating new relationships, cultivating new relationships isn't easy, whether it's dating, whether you're going out to meet new friends, whether you are networking to grow your business or to meet some business buddies. It's not easy. In fact, it can feel quite scary as an introvert to put yourself out there to try to meet new people. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure from society of how many, we have to constantly have people around us. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves. So it can feel really, really hard to show up confidently and authentically as ourselves. Hello, Tiffany. Hi. It can feel really hard, especially as an introvert, because I feel like there is this mass collective misunderstanding in our society around what it means to be an introvert. And even amongst introverts, which means introverts are putting themselves out there or feel like they have to come out of their shell, or that they have to be more extroverted in order to go out and meet people. And that is costing you your confidence. It is leaving you energetically drained. Hi, Christy. Thank you guys for being here, and thanks for commenting and letting me know that you're here. All right. So we are here to learn how to meet new people, to connect with them in a meaningful way, but in a way that allows you as an introvert to feel more authentic, to be more authentic, in a way that allows you to fuel your confidence, and in a way that doesn't leave you exhausted and without having to fake it as an extrovert. So what I'm going to be talking about today is, one, why it's important to operate from within your comfort zone when you're going out there and trying to meet people. I'm also going to be talking about or sharing a different perspective on what your comfort zone is, so that you can start to see it a little differently, so you can start to play with it a little bit differently. And then finally, I'm going to give you 3 key pieces that you need to know about yourself, so that you can actually start to intentionally utilize the edges of your comfort zone when you're getting out and you're starting to meet new people. Hi, Brenda Lees. Gosh, so excited you guys are here. All right, so a little bit about me. If you are new to me, if this is the first time you're getting on one of my lives, thank you again for being here. But let me just pause for a moment, share a little bit about myself so you know who I am. So I'm Vicki Regina. I am a hardcore and proud introvert, and I am a certified mindset and confidence coach for introverts. And just want to give you a little brief snippet of my story when it comes to relationships, building relationships as an introvert. So about 10 years ago, I ended a 4.5-year relationship. It was a perfectly fine relationship. It just wasn't the right relationship for me. He was a very nice person, just not the right person for me. So I ended that relationship. And a few months later, I was, at the doctor, routine, normal doctor's appointment, filling out all the paperwork, updating it. And I get to the part where it's asking for emergency contact, like a local emergency contact. And I was like, all of my friends, like local friends, had moved away while I was in that 4.5-year relationship. So here I was. I couldn't put anybody down, and it felt incredibly awkward. It was a humbling moment. I felt embarrassed about that. And I thought, like, who in the world doesn't have anybody locally that they can put as an emergency contact. I realize now that's probably more common than what I realized at the time, but that was a moment where it kind of woke me up that I needed to get out and meet people and bring them into my world so that I wasn't just operating all alone. Even though I'm perfect, I like being alone, but I needed these people in my life. And while I knew a lot about introversion already at that point, I still had a lot to learn. I felt really inspired to go all in on learning more about what it means, learning more about myself, really truly accepting myself, so that as I started to invite people into my world, I wasn't repeating mistakes of the past, and I wasn't bringing in people who didn't understand me and didn't want to understand me. That was a bit of the problem with the relationship that I left behind. And so, yeah, I spent a lot of time really just going all in on that. And in the process of doing that, I discovered the secret to managing my energy as an introvert, which is huge, huge, huge. And also, I learned how to grow from within my comfort zone, because I absolutely hated the advice of get out of your comfort zone, because that I mean, just the thought of getting out of my comfort zone just made me want to run back into like the safety of my living room and, wrap a blanket around me and not be seen. So I had to figure out a different way that worked for me. So in the process of doing that, that's allowed me now to have created a small circle of friends. I don't need 50 people in my circle. I have a small circle of close friends that I can rely on. And I've been in a relationship for the past 6.5 years, a little bit over 6.5 years, with a partner who is a extrovert leaning ambivert, and it's the best relationship I've ever had. So it's just really allowed me to create the right relationships for me. And so that's really inspired me to work with other introverts on this. So for the past 3+ years, I've been a coach since 2016, but for the past 3+ years, I've worked exclusively with introverts on deeply understanding what it means to be an introvert, understanding themselves, because we're not all carbon copies of each other. So really understanding what that means for them so they can embrace their quiet nature, approach life in a way that feels really good for them, and so that they can take that extrovert mask off, the extrovert hat off. I also help them to create a custom energetic blueprint. And when they do all of that, that is when they can feel more confident and energized when going out there and building those fulfilling relationships that they're craving, all from what I like to say, the comfort of their cozy corners. So yes, hate having to get out of your comfort zone. Absolutely. All right. So that's a little bit about me. To kick things off, I want to tell a story of one of my past clients, because her story exhibits the power of what happens when you really understand the edges of your comfort zone and you utilize it. So I'm going to tell the story first, and then as we go through explaining things, as I explain things, I'll tie it back into her story so you can really understand how it all works together. So Nikki was a client of mine. I worked with her last year. And when she first came to me, she was new to the city that she lived in. She lived in Toronto. She was new to that city. In fact, she was from another country. So knew absolutely nobody there. She started working at the company that she worked at towards the beginning of the pandemic. So everything was still, remote working at that point. So she didn't even know any of her coworkers. She'd never met them in person. So it's really hard to kind of create those relationships that she was looking for. She was fresh out of a relationship that did not end well. So she's a very hardcore introvert as well. And she was doing all the things. Like, I give her a lot of credit because she was following all of that advice to get out of her comfort zone, get out there and meet people, do all these new things, blah, blah, blah. She was doing all of that, but it wasn't really working. She was meeting all of these people, and the friendships weren't happening. She was either not getting the dates, or the dates were just not, like, they weren't good dates. So she was really feeling bad. She was exhausted from all the effort she was putting into doing all of that. And she felt ready to give up. Like, she thought she was the problem. She came to me and she was like, how do I fix me? That's probably something I think a lot of introverts resonate with. Like, how do I fix me? There's something wrong with me. So as we started working together and we started to break down like her beliefs and all of this stuff, I was able to take a look at her approach of how she was going out and trying to meet all these people. and I could see some problems. So she was going to way too many events without any downtime in between to recharge. She was doing all these things that she was supposed to do, like going to happy hour. She was on like all the dating apps. She was going out in terms of meeting friends. She was going out to like these big meetups that were like happening at restaurants where it's like, you know, there was like 10 women sitting around a table, all trying to talk over each other with loud music playing. And of course, those were not environments that worked for her. So she was sitting there, not able to get a word in. Her brain was scrambling, and she would walk out of there feeling like a failure and feeling like something was wrong with her, wondering, why in the world can't I be like them? Why can't I have anything interesting and witty and funny to say? Why can't I just like be able to jump into the conversation? And so she thought she was the problem. So as we worked together, we changed her approach to how she was dating and how she was going out and meeting people, because I helped her get really clear on what her boundaries of her comfort zone was, so she could work within that. And as a result, it changed her approach. So she stopped going to these large meetups and events because she was able to finally start seeing like those loud restaurants where everybody's talking over each other. There's nothing wrong with her for not being able to speak up and be chatty and witty and all those things. It was the environment that was wrong for her. So when she recognized that, she stopped judging herself. She stopped seeing herself as the problem, and it opened it up for new ways of meeting people. So she started going to these events on the weekends that were like volleyball events. She'd never played volleyball before, but that seemed fun for her. So she started going to those, and she loved it. Like right off the bat, she was much more herself. She was meeting people like right away that shared interest in what she was, what her interests were. She was able to have conversations with people without like trying to figure out what to say or stumbling over what to talk about. And she was able to connect with people more quickly. In fact, she said one time after one of the events, she sat and talked with this guy that she had just met for like 4 hours and had this deep, meaningful conversation. And she was like, I didn't think it was possible for me to actually be able to talk to someone I just met for 4 hours. But it was because she was in an environment where she was still able to be herself. So she was much more confident. So because of this, she stopped judging herself. She started to accept herself. And in short order, she had cultivated a small circle of friends. She was then she met somebody and she got into a relationship before we finished working together. And ultimately she found all those things that she was looking for without having to change herself, just changing her perspective on herself and changing her approach to how she was going out and meeting people. So that is the power of learning to use your comfort zone in order to go out and meet people. So let's start to dive into this a little bit more. So I think the whole advice of, you don't have to leave your comfort zone in order to grow and evolve is going against what we've all learned, right? Because I believe that staying in your comfort zone gets a really bad rap. It's people think that when you're staying in your comfort zone, you're playing it safe, you're hiding, you're not trying new things, you're avoiding things. And they say, you know what? You got to get out of your comfort zone to grow. But I think that you can absolutely grow and evolve from within your comfort zone when you know how to do it. And it's a much healthier and more sustainable way to grow and evolve. Because I think for introverts, our comfort zone is where we can be ourselves. It's actually almost like our zone of genius. And so, yes, Jessica, your comfort zone is your most authentic self. Absolutely. This is the place where we can tap into our confidence. We don't have to fake anything. And it's where people get to know the real us. So when I think about the comfort zone, I think of it from the perspective that there are two key elements that you need to understand about this space. And the first is that the border of your comfort zone is expandable. It's flexible. The second key element is that there are different zones or regions within your comfort zone. And when you understand what those zones and regions are, this is when you get to start maximizing using your comfort zone to grow. So let's take a look at both of those a little bit more in detail so you have a little bit better understanding. So I think a lot of people when they think about their comfort zone, they see the edges of their comfort zone as being like this fixed, rigid space. It's tiny, it's small, it's your safe space. It's where you feel the most comfortable. It's where you get to be you. For introverts, this is where you are recharging. You're doing whatever it is that you'd love to do when you're by yourself that makes you just feel calm, relaxed, and it recharges your energy. It's where you let your guard down. And yeah, it's where you can feel your most confident, or as Jessica said, where you can tap into your most authentic self. Now, I think for a lot of introverts, when they think about stepping outside of their comfort zone, it creates a lot of feelings of anxiety, very nervous. I know this because I've asked a lot of introverts how they feel about it, and this is what they tell me. It's how I used to feel about it. And I think that's because for a lot of introverts, when they think about stepping outside of their comfort zone, what that space becomes is the extrovert zone. And that is where you have to fake it as an extrovert. You've got to put that extrovert hat on. I like to say the extrovert mask. You've probably been trained and conditioned to do this throughout your life. So it almost feels like just second nature to do it, but it still creates anxiety and nerves. So the problem with this approach of stepping outside of your comfort zone and stepping into the extrovert zone is that it's very damaging to your self-esteem. So you can't grow your confidence when you are faking it as something, because the underlying message that you're telling yourself at a subconscious level is that I'm not good enough how I am, so I have to pretend to be something that I'm not. So you cannot grow like unconditional, deep confidence in yourself when you're ultimately underneath the hood telling yourself, I'm not good enough. So this is why it's very damaging to your self-esteem. When you genuinely feel like I don't need to pretend to be anybody else but me, I'm good the way I am. It's okay for me to be quiet. It's my approach is perfectly fine. You don't feel the need to pretend to be more extroverted. That goes away. The other thing is when you are pretending, when you're putting all that energy into pretending to be something that you're not and maintaining this false facade, it eats up a lot of energy. And when your energy is being depleted, trying to put on this facade, you can't focus on other people. You can't think of things to say. So it ends up feeding your lack of confidence. And so it just all works against you. And ultimately, that's going to create resistance to stepping outside of your comfort zone. And you're going to understandably want to avoid it. Yes, Brenda Lee's self-acceptance leads to authenticity. That's beautiful. So when you are approaching dating, making new friends from outside of your comfort zone, you're making it a lot more difficult for yourself. You are exhausting yourself. And when you do meet new people, whether it's potential dates, new friends, business buddies, potential clients, whatever it is, they're not meeting the real you. They're meeting the fake you. It may be a very well cultivated fake you that you've created over time, but it's still not the real you. And that's going to add more stress because at some point, you're going to have to drop that facade. And then what? So in reality, the borders of your comfort zone are flexible. They are expandable. So I think it's like a muscle, right? So if we are exercising that border, then and flexing it and strengthening it, we become more resilient. And as we are expanding that comfort zone, that's when we're growing. That's why I absolutely believe that you can grow from within your comfort zone, because what you're doing is you're growing the edges, you're growing the capacity of your comfort zone, which means you can continue to bring more things in. So the goal is to learn to operate from within your comfort zone, because this is how you're going to conserve energy. This is how you're going to grow your confidence, that unconditional confidence. And this is where you don't have to fake anything. So when you are approaching dating, meeting new people, whether it's new friends, business people, whatever, when you are working on cultivating relationships with other people and you are doing this from within your comfort zone, you're not going to be as exhausted, so you can last a little longer. You're going to feel more excited. You're going to enjoy it more. You're going to feel more like yourself. So when you meet people, they are attracted to you, not the fake you. It puts you in the driver's seat, and it's going to, just like I was sharing earlier with my story, it's going to ensure that you don't keep making the same mistakes in relationships, whether it's friends or romantic relationships, as you've made in the past. And so when you do all that, that's going to also contribute to growing your confidence. Now, to work within your comfort zone, you need to understand that there are different zones or regions within your comfort zone. Again, it's not just that one small little space where you go to hide and recharge. That's part of it. But there are actually, from the way I see it, there are 3 different zones within your comfort zone. So the first zone is what I call the cozy zone. This is the heart of your comfort zone. So I actually have a graphic for this, but I don't think I can actually show things on here. But so I'm going to try to visually describe it for you. But when in my graphic that I've created for this, the cozy zone, I have it as a heart right in the middle of the cozy zone, because this is the heart of your this is the heart of your comfort zone. This is probably what you think of your comfort zone right now. It's where you go to recharge. It's where you go to just, let your hair down. It's where you go to, you feel the most relaxed, comfortable you that there is. And this is, again, where you are recharging your energy. And this is a very important space. So what's right outside of that cozy zone, and this is probably where, if you're not by yourself, if you're not by yourself, but you're in your comfort zone, this is where you're going to probably spend the most of the time in the comfort zone. And this is what I call your familiar zone. It's not the sexiest of names, but it's that space where you are in situations where you feel confident, you feel safe, you feel things are very familiar. You can totally be yourself in that space. So this is like when you're with your family, maybe like your extended family, your immediate family might be sometimes in your cozy zone, but familiar zone is when you're with your family, when you're with your friends, maybe even at work, but you feel like yourself and it doesn't cost you a ton of energy. It does drain your energy a little bit, just because by nature, when we introverts are around other people, it does tend to drain us, but it's a slow drain. It's not like a fast drain. And then the third zone is what I call the border zone. Now, this is the space that's still within your comfort zone, but along the edges. So this is the edges of your comfort zone. And this is where the growth happens. So again, you're still within your comfort zone. So you are able to feel like yourself. You're able to tap into your confidence. But because it's on the edge of your comfort zone, there is going to be some discomfort, but it's not overwhelming like it is when you step outside of your comfort zone. It's more manageable. And again, you can tap into your past experiences or things that you're really good at to anchor yourself into your confidence. Now, all 3 of these are important, all 3 of these are valid, and all 3 of these zones are needed. Now, when it comes to meeting people, you're going to be meeting new people, mostly you're going to be meeting new people within that border zone. So new situations, new people, slight bit of discomfort, but when you're maximizing that space and leveraging it, it's not overwhelming. The familiar zone is where the relationships will develop and deepen. And then that cozy zone is still that heart of your comfort zone where you're going to go to recharge. You may every now and then be able to have some people in there, like a few very key close people, but for the most part, that cozy zone is like your space to go recharge. And you need that. You need to prioritize having space, giving yourself space and permission to retreat to your cozy zone, to balance out the time that you spend in that border zone, because being in the border zone is going to take some of your energy. So you have to balance that out. Okay, because if you're able to not feel exhausted from going out and meeting people by balancing it out, then you're not going to feel as drained and you're going to be less resistant to doing it. You're less resistant to meeting people. All right, so I apologize. We are going to run a little bit over 30 minutes, but not too much. So I hope that's all right for everybody. But so now that I've introduced you to a different perspective on your comfort zone, I want to talk about the 3 things that you need to know about yourself in order to start utilizing that border zone, the edges of your comfort zone, because you might be wondering, well, how do I know if I'm staying within my comfort zone? And I will say it's a little bit of a dance. It takes practice. The more you get familiar with these three things, the easier it's going to be to recognize it. But yeah, it's a practice because you've probably never done this before. So if you are going to take the challenge to start to explore these 3 things, give yourself some grace as you are doing it and as you're dancing along that edge. So when we are talking about the 3 key things that you need to understand about yourself, these are the things that, well, I like to think of the edges of our comfort zone. And remember, I said it's flexible, it's expandable. I like to think of it like a flexible cord, almost like elastic. You could think of it sort of like an elastic band. And it's made up of 3 vital strands. And when you understand what these 3 strands are, this is when you can start to take control of using your comfort zone as a tool for getting out there and meeting people authentically and confidently. So the 3 strands are: 1, your core values. These are your fundamental beliefs about yourself that drive your behavior. They define your priorities. They are what helps motivate you. And even if you're not aware of your core values, they're still there and they're still operating. But when you become aware of them, you can recognize, that's going to help you recognize when you are coming up to the edges of your comfort zone. Now, the second strand is your preferences as an introvert. So these, when I say preferences, I mean like your preferences for meeting new people, your preferences for how you like to spend your time, how much time you need to recharge. Now, if you're an introvert that has spent your life thinking that you're at a disadvantage for being an introvert, or that you can't, or that it's selfish to need time alone, which is society tells us that. So most introverts will feel that way for a really long time. But if that's you, you are probably dismissing your preferences right now and just ignoring them and not paying attention to them because, again, you feel like they're selfish, or you're going to be nobody's going to like you, or whatever it is. So it's really important to understand what it actually means to be an introvert, accept that within yourself so that you can honor those preferences, because that is really going to help define that border of your comfort zone. And it's going to help you pick opportunities, situations, events that align with that. That's going to help you stay within your comfort zone. Now, the third piece is, or the third strand rather, is your gifts and your strengths. So your gifts and your strengths are what makes you unique. And these are the things that will activate your natural confidence in yourself. Again, these are things you may be dismissing right now, because if they are like the strengths that come with being an introvert, you may be dismissing those. Also, the strengths that you naturally have that you were so good at that you don't even realize that they're a strength of yours, you also may be dismissing those because you just don't realize that something that comes easily to you may not come easy to somebody else. But when you recognize all of these strengths and gifts and you own them, that is when your confidence starts to just naturally bloom, and you can lead with those strengths. You can lean into those strengths. And again, those will start to help you discern what events, activities, people, all of those things, which ones align to you. So when you understand your core values, you understand your preferences as an introvert, you understand your strengths and your gifts, and you are really activating those and honoring those, it becomes very attractive and magnetic to people. And you don't even have to do anything. It's just like a confidence that starts to just, you just exude confidence, and you become very attractive and magnetic to other people. And this is when you really start to understand and accept yourself. And that is going to change your approach to dating, meeting new people. And so you're going to have more fun. You're going to be able to confidently be yourself. Even if you're nervous or feeling a little uncomfortable, you're still going to feel confident in being yourself. You don't have to fake anything. You're not as exhausted or as drained as you are when you're, doing it how you think, putting yourself out there as a fake extrovert, or just like harshly criticizing yourself. And you're going to be more comfortable honoring your needs. So if something is feeling out of alignment, you're going to have the confidence to do what's right for you without sacrificing your preferences, without compromising your values, and without judging yourself or sacrificing your needs. So again, that in itself, when you do that, is going to make you so much more confident. Lori, great question on how to determine your core values. I have exercises for all of those that I do with my clients. I can send you a couple of things, some ideas on that. But yeah, these are to identify your core values, your strengths, and your preferences. Those are things that, like, I do some deep exercises with my clients on that. But I can send you a few tips on that, Lori. So just to wrap this up and to bring it back full circle, just to touch back on Nikki's story that I shared earlier in the top of this talk. When I mentioned that she started to go to these volleyball events, that was an example of her trying something new. She'd never played volleyball before, but she likes playing sports. She'd played other sports in the past. So even though volleyball was something completely new for her, which made her feel a little nervous, made her feel a little uncomfortable, she was leaning into the fact that She knew she was good at sports. She knew she enjoyed sports. She felt more herself when she was playing sports. So that's what kept that activity, even though it was a brand new activity, that's what kept it within her comfort zone. And that's why when she was meeting people, even first meeting people, she was able to be herself and she didn't have to put on that fake facade because she was anchored into stuff that she already knew she was good at and where she already felt confident. Okay. So I worked with her for 6 months. And like I said, when she came to me, she felt like she was the problem. She was in a really dark place. She was ready to just give up on trying to meet people and just think that that was just it. Nobody would ever like her. And in 6 months' time, she became a whole new person. She had a circle of friends. She had a relationship that was the best relationship she'd had so far in 6 months. And the thing that was beautiful about it is that she didn't have to become somebody new, which is what she thought she was going to need to do, which felt impossible. She just had to learn how to see herself differently, accept herself on a new level, and use all of that to approach her meeting people and connecting with people, which made it a lot easier. So, with all of that in mind, if this is something that you struggle with, then I invite you to jump on a call with me because this stuff is really, really important. I would love to talk with you about what it is that you really want, what's working, what's not working, what it's going to take to get there. And if we end up working together, that's awesome. If it doesn't make sense for us to work together, that's awesome too. But at the very least, just get on a call with me. I'm going to drop a link up here in just a minute. Get on a call with me because again, this stuff is super, super important because I know as introverts, we love being alone. I love being alone, but we are still human beings that need that human connection with others. And so this is about finding the right people, the people that see you, that respect you, that hear you, that understand you, that want you to be the youest of you there is. These are the people that are going to walk along beside you as like the witnesses of your life. So this is hugely important. To meet those people, you've got to start with yourself. So if that's something that you want to explore, again, we can talk about working together. And if we do, we do. If we don't, we don't. But at least get on a call and let's talk about it so that we can explore what's possible for you. Because again, this stuff is super important. But with that in mind, next week, part 2, going to be continuing this conversation and I'm going to be diving into managing your energy as an introvert because this is when you're getting out and meeting people and connecting with people, because this is huge. This is such an important part really of everything we do as introverts. But it's super important when you're getting out and meeting people because again, if you feel drained the whole time, you're not going to want to do it. So I'm going to be talking about why it's important to be aware of and to manage your energy when you are going out and seeking new relationships. I'm going to be giving you an overview of how energy works for introverts because I'm sure you're aware that you get drained from a lot of different things, but it's not something you've ever really maybe thought about why or how. So I'm going to be giving you an overview of that so you have a better understanding of it. I'm going to give you some strategies on how to leverage your energy effectively when you're getting out and meeting people. And then finally, I'm going to talk about why staying within your comfort zone actually conserves your energy, making it last longer, which is really awesome when you're going out and trying to meet new people. So this will be at the same time next Thursday. So be on the lookout for that. I'll be setting that up this week. So I'll be sending out some invites for that. But with all of that said, we're only a tad bit over. But if anybody has questions, then I would love to answer any questions that you have. So you can drop those in the comments. Christy, thank you. Happy to share. And thank you to everybody for all your comments that you were sharing today. Yes, see you next week, Christy. All right. And if you do have questions, by the way, and you don't feel comfortable dropping them on, publicly where people can see it, then feel free to reach out to me, just send me a DM and I'm happy to answer questions there as well. All right. So I'll give that a minute or two just to see. Oh, thank you, Radana. So glad you were here. All right. So awesome. Thank you, Tiffany. I'm glad that you're loving it. Lots more good stuff to come. All right. I think there aren't any questions coming in, which is awesome. But again, if you have any questions that you want to ask me, feel free to DM those to me. Or if you think of them later, feel free to DM these to me and I will be happy to answer those. So have a lovely evening and I will see you guys next week.